The Wellness Show, Episode 71.
Welcome to The Wellness Show, a podcast on health and wealth. I'm your host, Tyson Bannigan, the founder of the Extraordinary Healing Arts Academy. Join me as we get the latest insight, tips, and strategies from wellness providers, coaches, and successful, heart-centered entrepreneurs, and much, much more. So welcome to The Wellness Show, and on the call today I have Dika Volchoff. And Terry is a transformational catalyst who works with healers and conscious entrepreneurs, taking them through an integration process that frees them from the limitations of their mind so that they can succeed. After having conquered her own health and wealth changes in her life, her goal now is to guide people to free them from their own limitations of their mind. So they are supported from within with a mind that serves them and transforms their health, wealth, and relationships, allowing them to leave a legacy of success for generations to follow. I love that whole concept of leaving a legacy. So obviously, you had to break free in your own life. So how did that come about for you?
Well, I think the biggest breakthrough was I got really, really sick, and I've been in the personal development field for 15 years at the time, kind of being positive, doing meditation, all kinds of great things, and then I became really, really ill. And at that point, and I still to this day believe this, that we do create our own reality. So I couldn't walk, and the doctor said, here's the number for disability, you're done. And I thought, well, if I created this, then there must be a way to uncreate it. And so I set out on a journey to try and find, how did I create this? And it was a very, very powerless time in my life.
So how long did that journey, it sounds like a bit of a journey into hell and back. How long did that journey?
Yeah. You know what? It lasted around 4 or 5 years.
Wow.
I mean, there was progression help. I didn't have like a, remission of any sort. It was a very progressive healing. As each day went by, I got better and better.
So what were some of the key things that you used in helping come to heal yourself? Obviously, if you've mentioned the brain and your mind, then making your mind your servant rather than your taskmaster must have been part of it.
It really was. It was just so I discovered that we have these unconscious, which means we are unaware of them. We don't know that we have these ideas, decisions, loyalty to our family, to our parents, and that can actually make you sick. But what I also found out was avoiding them is actually what brings out this sort of physical manifestation. So as I was saying, I was always kind of being positive, looking good, feeling good, always smiling. And
so you were trying to be Mary Sunshine.
How I really felt deep down inside.
So being Mary Sunshine didn't work for you. So when did you? No, right. So what did you start with? You mentioned both that your parents were part of the whole exploration. So, and I know you help your clients in that area. So which one did you start with? Which was the clue that these were the loyalty programs that were getting in your way? Did you start with your mom or did you start with your dad?
I really didn't start with any of that. It just sort of comes up. So with the work that I do, we start with sort of how you're feeling. And this is the thing that we have sort of been taught to avoid. Even, when we parent our children, we're like, buck up, or, the new age movement is, you have a choice to be happy or sad,
Yeah.
But when we tell our children, that when you tell them things like that, it's like if you're telling them it's not okay to be you. So
Yeah,
I had a lot of that, a
right.
lot of that.
So
And
the
so
sort of
you
thing
grow
is,
up to be an adult who really doesn't know who they are.
yeah, so you don't know how to deal with your
That,
your feelings. Yeah, my dad used to say, stop crying or I'll give you something to really cry about. All those, wonderful, helpful comments that really, sort of drive you back inside of yourself and make you sort of not feel comfortable about expressing what's going on inside of yourself. So when did you start to make this turnaround? How old were you?
how old was I? Oh, so this was just, like it was just really 3 years ago that I really came out of it and went on this. I tried other things that didn't
Yeah,
work.
yeah.
But then I got into sort of the deeper work, and so it was only about 3 years ago that I sort of came out of it, and was able to walk and do all the things that I used to do.
So tell me some of the deeper work that you did. What were some of the things that freed you up?
Well, one of the things that I found out was Miss Happy here felt powerless inside, and I felt powerless. So I had to go through a lot of layers. Why did I feel powerless? Well, I never had a voice as a child. Everything I did was wrong. So we had to sort of clear all of those like bent up emotions that I stuffed down. And again, there was the loyalty to my mother, who was also sick. So we're always our parents' little one, right? And the fastest way for a child, which I am their child, to get a parent's love is to be just like them. So these are kind of the hidden loyalties. So my mother has been sick for 20 years, and I ended up just like her. Now, the conscious mind doesn't really want to be just like her. As a matter of fact, I resisted my mother. But what we resist and can't come to terms with, we end up sort of manifesting in our lives. So through this work, I also now accept my mother. And because I accept my mother, I actually accept myself. Because the unconscious mind does not know the difference between you hating your mother or thinking she's whatever and you hating yourself.
Well, that's really interesting. So what you resist persists, and and it just shows up over and over and over again until you deal with it. So
Yeah.
as a little child, then being around your mother who was ill all the time, I don't know about you, but for me in my relationship with my parents, I felt I had to fix it somehow. That there wasn't even crazy glue in those days, but if it was, I was looking for crazy glue. How do I mend this? How do I put it all back together? How do I fix it? Not knowing that it wasn't my responsibility as a child. My job was just to be a child, but somehow I picked up the idea that I needed to solve this dilemma. I needed to fix it. And I think lots of people maybe have that.
I would agree, and I definitely had that myself. But that's part of the resistance. So if you're not accepting your parents, you are trying to fix them. You are resisting them rather than just allowing them to be who they are at their level of understanding. So
that's a big adult concept, though, for a kid, just to accept them for
a child,
yeah.
And I don't think I was really conscious of it as a child. That extended into my adult life.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Trying to fix them. Yeah, trying to fix the parents. Yeah,
trying to fix the parents. Yeah, and if I fix my parents and I get them all straightened out, I'll be okay. But that's not the case. But so that's what you mean about loyalty. There's a different loyalty program. You don't get good points for this one.
No, it just messes you up more.
That's right. Costs you more. It doesn't save you money.
No. Yeah.
Wow, what was that?
I don't. Maybe my water bottle.
Right. So, how does the conscious mind? One of the questions you wanted me to ask you was, how does the conscious mind become limited?
Well, it becomes limited in our childhood. So the subconscious mind is sort of developed between the age of 1 and 6. Some people say 8, whatever. So you kind of like take on these all your life experiences and what you've learned, and then you kind of get programmed in there, and then from 6 on, it sort of gets proven that this is true, and you just kind of that's being referenced all the time, and it's being attracted into your life. That this is the way my life is going to be. It's going to be hard. I'll never, be able to speak up for myself, or whatever the case is.
So
and so it gets programmed in there, and then it's referenced over and over. And the older you get, the more, the stronger actually that program is, unless you go in there and release that program.
So it becomes your default, especially when there's stress and duress. You go to your default and run that program.
Actually, yes, absolutely. So when there's any stress, or you get triggered, or you try to expand in any way, like you try to take on more, like a new career or something like that, this is when the triggers happen. Definitely.
So your whole goal is to help people around their health and take their health back, or control over their health. So how does this affect your health?
Well, until we can go back and release those programs, they just keep trying and trying and trying to give you this message. So all of your fear, all of your anger, all of your emotions that are sort of getting in the way of your life, because you talk to people all the time. I don't want to be angry, but I was, right? I didn't want to yell at my children, but I did. So these are actually messages from your subconscious mind to come over here and look at me, start abandoning this part of yourself, and listen to this. And once you give your conscious awareness to it and actually feel what you have been feeling, instead of like having it come out in your everyday life, the everyday life is just a symptom of the problem. It's not the core of the problem. So we go to the core, sort of when the creation point, the day it was created, and it's allowed to be released. Otherwise, it just gets louder and louder the longer you get. So people will either do the work, or what they'll do is they'll quit and resign and say, well, that wasn't meant for me, and they'll just stay where they are in life.
So,
in their small little problems.
So to recap a bit, then the emotions are messages from your body, and it's best to learn from them. Otherwise, you're enslaved by them, because they're telling you that you need to let go of the stress and duress and learn something so that you can free yourself. And if you don't, that stress leads to disorder and ultimately to disease. But if you do listen to these messages and you go deeper, then you're starting to clear some of the emotional blocks and these hidden loyalty programs that are running in your unconscious. So do you have some particular methodologies that you love to use in this, or did you develop one yourself, or how do you actually do this with your clients?
So I don't have any methodologies that I've adopted myself. I am trained and certified in 3 different modalities. So I really just sit with the person. They tell me what's going on in their life, and I just ask them a question or 2. And, with the guidance, and their eyes are closed because then you can shut out the outside world, you actually do have access to all the information that's inside of you. Now, I think it's pretty difficult, even though I know this work, to do it on your own, because the mind does wander.
Mm-hmm.
And I just ask them key questions, and the answer comes up. And I guide them like to take the first answer, because that is the subconscious mind. It always doesn't make sense, but it will as it unfolds. It's sort of like the dream world. It doesn't make sense, right? Some of the answers will come up and they're like, oh, what does that mean? But it all unfolds, and we just keep asking some questions and guiding them through the terrain of their subconscious mind. So all the answers are in there.
Great. Yeah, that's really true. I like that. So, you have all your own answers. You are your own healer. You are your own guide. And so you help people really understand how to tune into that part of themselves to receive their own guidance. And you become the coach or the mentor to help them on that journey. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, I don't. The reason why I call myself a transformational catalyst is because I don't do a lot of coaching. I allow the client to come up with their own answers from within, and also find their own blocks from within. Because I think it's more empowering for them to do that than for someone else to kind of suggest what should be done. Or so I don't implant any ideas. All of the whatever they build, release, or build, they do it on their own. I just guide them, like, what would you like to be, or what is this going on here? And I actually have them feel that emotion, probably for the very first time. And when you do that, it's actually released, and then you go out into the world, and you don't have these triggers anymore.
So by
So there's no raw.
yeah. So when you recognize the emotion, you have and you can sit with that emotion or allow it to come up, then you're freed from that emotion, because emotion can be expressed and released from your body. Is that correct?
Absolutely correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's.
And so we don't add anything to it, or judgment or anything. So it's really just about your awareness. And to me, and I learned this from my one of my teachers, is awareness is actually higher than love, because love requires a give and take, and there's debt and there's obligation, but awareness is just being present without any judgment, without any input, just being present to what is.
Right.
And being present to what is, feeling what is, allows it to unwind, and then, like I said, you can go out and do what you need to do in the world without all the fear, and the physiology of your body can change when you have fear. Your heart starts to race. All of those things just go away.
So discernment is beyond judgment, or the ability to not put a value judgment on your emotions, and to, at the level of unconditional love, radical self-love, there is no judgment. And when you can do that, I guess, and just let the emotion arise, and you help them to do that, then it can dissipate and go with no judgment. Whether we don't need to put a value judgment on it. In our culture, we like to judge and say that was a good emotion or that was a bad emotion.
Yeah.
But how do we do that? We don't do that on notes on a piano. Every note is a valuable note. It leads to the next note, and we even actually like the silent bits between the notes. And so it's interesting how we get stuck into emotion, which are like vibrational notes, and then put value judgments on them, right?
Definitely, yes. And this is what kind of causes some duality and
polarity, and
because that's and then when you clear yourself too, you're not dependent on anything from the outside. You're not dependent on well, somebody said I did a great post. Well, then the next day somebody said I didn't do a good post, right? It's like so you can be up and down like a yo-yo
yes.
every 5 minutes. But when you clear yourself, it's like you kind of finally know who you are.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point. So the value judgments of other people, whether it's praise or blame, cease to have as much impact on you, because you feel all right about who you are. And what other people think about you is really none of your business, and that's for them to figure out and deal with. But for you, you can just learn from whether it's the praise or learn from the blame, and let it go, instead of being caught in the yo-yo that you were when you were caught up in the feelings that came from your mother or your father, or what did you call them? You called them, I love that way that you talk about it. What's the word that you use again?
Unconscious loyalties?
Unconscious loyalties, exactly. Yeah, I've never thought of it as unconscious loyalties, but it's true. So yeah, so when we let go of that, we're free to be ourselves. We can show up. So do you help people after they've shown up? I mean, I know you help them in the process of learning how to show up. You help them learning to get their own guidance. Do you then continue to work with them? Like, do you help them discover what their life purpose is, or what they're here to deliver, or is that part of the work that you do as well?
Yeah, that part of the work shows up naturally
Yeah.
Because you've removed everything that was hiding, your purpose,
Yeah.
right? So that does show up naturally. I do help them with skills. So I've been in the field of, I've taught successful relationship classes for many years, so I can help them that way with skills because, some things in life require skills that you might not have. But I find that the client is very willing to go after what they need. So if they need to take on more skills, they will, because there's nothing, again, in their way anymore, saying, oh, I can't do this. So they're very willing to go out and do what they need to do. If they need marketing skills or whatever, they'll go out and find it.
That's sort of interesting.
I can help with skills too.
Yeah. So it seemed, the image I got when you said that is just like you're creating a straight arrow, and once it's a straight arrow, then they literally can find the target and get there on their own because they're not off target, so to speak. They just, they're self-seeking, self-directing, and are available to find their own soul path and figure it out. Well, that's really.
I love that analogy.
Yeah, I like that. I didn't really understand or grasp just how powerful they can be, that when you get rid of these loyalties, that like a heat-seeking missile, you can find the target. That's a poor analogy because we don't want to blow anything up, but the point is that you can get from where you are to where you want to be in the shortest amount of time because you have your own built-in guidance system. I've never really thought of it that way, and so I like that because you're really empowering them to believe that that's true, and when they do, they can go for it. Good on you.
Yeah, it is. You know what? It just is true because all of the stuff that was in your way, we all have these desires and goals and dreams, right? And really, generally speaking, they're pretty easy. Like, what does it take to go to the gym? Just for example, you just get in the car and you go and you work out and you come home. But why is it so hard?
Yeah.
So when you remove, all of those subconscious programs, then, the adult conscious mind who makes those decisions to go to the gym is just free to go. And there's nothing saying, no, that little voice is gone, right?
Right.
And you actually do have, a new inner dialogue that, isn't from the outside, like, so it's not affirmations or anything like that. Your inner dialogue actually changes. And you just go.
Let me ask you about that inner dialogue. It's easy enough to say that there's this inner dialogue that comes from guidance, but what sort of hot tips do you have for the people on the show about getting that mind chatter of the conscious mind that wants to run the show? How do you help your clients get over that mind chatter?
Well, to face it. So we've been taught as a society to go over here and be positive, to face it. So, for example, if you have something coming up or your mind is going crazy with whatever thought, just close your eyes and maybe take a breath if you need to, and just sort of sit there and, it's like, and try to address the feeling, because a thought is really just a thought. It's the emotion that we attach to it that anchors it into our body or our mind.
Right.
So try to experience that emotion. Just close your eyes and really feel it. And what we always do is we run from it. We distract ourselves from it in many ways. Have a drink, whatever, watch TV. Like there's 1,000 ways. But just finally sit with it. And if you sit with it and even try and locate it in your body, because usually it's somewhere in your body, often the stomach or the heart or the throat, and just sort of in your mind's eye, feel it and see it, and just keep your awareness on it, it will go away. But where is it now? It's gone.
Yeah. Well, I like that. So if you honor every emotion in the way that you're suggesting, and I do like that, then if we extrapolate this, then it means that if you have fear, almost overwhelming fear, it means that you have something big that's showing up, and that when you approach it and don't run away from it, you get a great gift by just staying in the fear and letting it dissipate and allowing you to break through to a greater understanding. So it's really counterintuitive. It's intuitive for us, but it's counterintuitive to what we're taught. because we're not taught that. We're taught to avoid all that, right? That somehow we have to be rational and sane, avoid our emotions. I don't know where that comes from. It's really crazy making, but
Isn't it interesting?
yeah. And what you're teaching people is, you know, and no disrespect, it's straightforward and simple once we start to get it. And it makes our lives so much easier and full of ease and grace once we can get over that mind and those fears that our culture is so addicted to it, almost like sugar and Coke and pop and all the rest of it. We thrive on this drama. We love it. Like our stories are more exciting to us than the healing that might come from dropping the stories. It's really a sort of an enigma that we've got ourselves into. So I love the fact that Terry's showing up as a quiet, peaceful warrior and saying, hey, you know, all these emotions are all equal. Just, you know, let's sort them through and let's not run away from them. And guess what? Your mind slows down and you discover the inner you, and you can start to get guidance and be directed. I like that. It's really nice and clean and clear and crisp. No fuss, no muss. Just show up. So yeah, that's
Very
powerful.
powerful.
Yeah, really powerful. And you know, it's amazing because it sounds to me like you did use different modalities, but in the end, it seems like you've just dropped all the modalities, that they're not relevant to you anymore. It's just you being you and the guidance that you provide in helping people tap into their own guidance, their own inner guidance that guides them through. Am I getting this right?
That's right. That's right.
Wow, that's beautiful. That's really beautiful. And it provides so much hope for everybody. I mean, we don't have to go learn another technique. We don't have to sit at the feet of masters. We don't have to do more therapy. We don't have to go lie on any couch. We don't have to do all of these things that we think that we have to do. We just have to phone Terry and let go.
Absolutely. And it works quite fast. You know, you can go through a few layers, but you know, it works quite fast.
Great. So when you say it works quite fast, what are you finding? What does fast mean to you? Are we talking about a month? Are we talking about 21 days? Are we talking about a couple of months? We're talking about, what are we talking about?
Well, you know, it depends on the situation, on the problem. The younger the person, the faster. So a child, maybe 1 or 2 sessions.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody who's in their 50s, you know, maybe 10 sessions.
Right. Yeah. So more crap, longer it takes.
Yes, exactly. I
Right.
like the way you put that.
Yeah. So, yeah. So the younger kid doesn't need an oil change, doesn't need his engine cleaned out. He's already running pretty close to true. And yeah, so do you get to work with lots of kids, or are you working with people that are much older?
Mostly adults, but sometimes they'll bring their children as well. Yeah.
Right. So how do you work with people? Do you work at a distance? Do you Zoom or Skype, or do you meet in person, or how do you do it?
I just use Skype.
Yeah, you just
Yeah,
use
I have to see the person, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, you know, people can sit in the comfort of their home. They don't have to leave and go anywhere.
Right.
So that's nice. Yeah.
So how long is your average session? Are they half an hour, or what?
They're an hour to up to 2 hours sometimes. Usually more like an hour and 15 minutes.
Right.
Yeah. As long as it takes. I've never gone past an hour, past 2 hours.
Right. So do people pay for you by the hour, or do you have a sort of a lump sum for what you do, or how do you do that?
Yeah, well, it's per session. Yeah,
Per
so
session.
they can pay per session, or if they want to buy a package of 6, they can save money that way.
Right.
And so make that commitment. Yeah.
So I understand that you not only do individual sessions, you do group sessions. Is that correct?
Actually, I don't. I have not figured out a way to do this work in a group session. Because we all have our own unique, you know, ideas and decisions that we made, and these loyalties and these vows, you know, they're all so unique that I haven't figured out how to do that in a group yet.
Wow, I would love to explore that with you. I think there's another whole level to this that might be really, really, really quite exciting. So that's neat. I love the idea of getting every busted loose, but wouldn't it be amazing to bring them back together in a group process where they can help each other learn and grow? I think that could be quite incredible. So that's worth thinking about, as you move forward. Yeah, so we're getting near the end of the show. So how do people get hold of you?
Well, I do have a website. It's called interiorfreedomdesigner.com. And the best way to get a hold of me is Facebook. So it's just Terry Dika Volchoff. And I'm always looking at my messages. You can catch me there.
All right. So, of course, the last question I always like to ask is, what would you like to leave the listeners on this show? What sort of tips and insights you'd like to leave with them?
Well, I think one thing for sure is I really truly believe there's a solution to every problem. And so, seek out solutions, because if I listened to the doctors, I'd be in a wheelchair right now. So, be your own authority. It does take some work and some responsibility, but, there is a solution to every problem. And the next thing would be to really just, to really love yourself is to be with all of you. So be with those emotions and, allow them to be a part of you and put your awareness on them, feel them deeply, and you will be amazed how much better you feel. And you'll be unstoppable if you would just do that one thing. And then one more thing, because I always like to include the children. Please start acknowledging your children's emotions. If they're sad, just say to them, I see that you're very sad. And you will watch how fast they cheer up and move on.
Well, thank you, Terry. Thank you for helping people become unstoppable. I love that. We want more unstoppable people in this world so we can make this a better world to live in. So it was great having you on this show, and I wish you all the best and success in the work that you're doing, and may you free lots of people from their inner drama and their inner stories so that they can show up and be authentic in the world. So for now, thank you ever so much.
Thank you, Tyson. It was a pleasure.
All right, bye for now.
Bye-bye.
For quality online wellness products, courses, and services, visit our sponsors, thewellnessstore.ca and the Extraordinary Healing Arts Academy located at thewellnessacademy.ca. To stay in touch, visit us at thewellnessshow.ca. And until next time, be healthy, wealthy, and wise.